Hello, my name is William Kumwembe and this is Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. And in the program today, we zero in on Sunday's decision by MERA to effect a 22.8% fuel price hike. And also in the program, experts confronting development bottlenecks. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned if you could.
Excuse me, madam. Stop billing. I'm taking back all these goods to the shelves.
What's wrong, sir?
Never mind. I have just changed my mind.
Excuse me. I just noticed you returned all the goods you meant to buy. What went wrong?
Some of these products are not originally made here in Malawi.
But these goods have a logo to authenticate them. And we manufacture them ourselves.
Then it means you're not registered with Buy Malawi strategy. This logo here with a tick is not correct.
How?
All products and services registered with Buy Malawi strategy have an original logo approved by government through the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Tourism that really authenticates your product as a Malawian product. Now, once you register, your product and service will be recognized as Malawian. Look, we must buy Malawi to build Malawi. You can find out more from Buy Malawi Secretariat or call them on 01 770 244 0993 707 729 or 0999 528 510. You can also simply email info@buymalawi.mw.
Buy Malawi, tukondendi kunyadira za Malawi. Tikamagula.
Hello and welcome. This is Business Time. In our main story in the program today, on Sunday, the Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority MERA announced an increase in fuel prices by about 22.8%. This has already attracted mixed reactions on the market. Some say they saw it coming. Others feel it will have a huge repercussion in as far as inflation is concerned. Now, we want to understand the forces behind the decision. We first speak to Henry Kajaje, who is Chief Executive Officer for the Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, MERA.
There are fundamentals that have made it necessary that we adjust the fuel prices, and key on it are the world prices. World fuel prices have been escalating since February, March, April, and there's been a steady increase in prices, and that has really been very significant. And second thing is that the exchange rate movements. The Malawi kwacha has weakened slightly by almost 5% against the United States dollar. And when we combine those factors, they have actually triggered that we do an adjustment based on the automatic pricing mechanism that is used to determine fuel prices in the country.
One would still wonder to say 6 to 8 months, putting into consideration those variables, the kwacha volatility vis-a-vis international price movement. Why were you delaying, if I'm to use that word?
Right, okay. A number of factors had to be considered. First of all, yes, there has been indeed some delay. There should have been some adjustments as we went wrong. But I think we are also very considerate, and now I'm talking about even the consultations with government. We were at that time passing through a very difficult time. COVID had hit us very hard around February, March, going onwards. So a lot of business activities were on standstill in the country, and the humanitarian consideration at that time was, okay, let's see if we can continue to stabilize the prices using the price stabilization fund so that we mitigate the impact so that there isn't a high cost of fuel at the same time when industry and most businesses in the country were crippled by the impact of COVID-19.
Talking of which, the price stabilization fund, should we conclude that it's depleted or thinned, hence the 22.8% hike in fuel prices?
Yes, I can confirm that it has been depleted and almost gone even in negative. Because when we look at the collections in the Price Stabilization Fund between the period December 2020 to August this year, the fund collected a total of about 44.7 billion, which Malawi Kwacha, which was meant to be stabilizing the price when the movements are below 5%. But the same period, the under recoveries by the oil importers accumulated to about 75 billion. So we had a fund of about 44.7 billion, but then you accumulate losses of about 75 billion, which left us in an awkward position because we ended up with a deficit of about 30 billion to be covered. So we could no longer contain the price because the stabilization fund had been depleted, and obviously looking at how the market has been performing, we just had to adjust it as many of our neighboring countries have done within the past few months.
Because fears are the once-off, if I'm to use that term, the once-off adjustment of the fuel prices could pile pressure to consumers. The toughest question would still be, what does the future hold?
Okay. Yes, it's a good observation. This hike can definitely and will have some impact, especially on other prices of other commodities. But let me be quick to say that this is not the first time this country has had a hike of just slightly above 20%. The adjustment that was done in December 2020 was above 20%. And before, we've also had hikes that have been above 20%. So it's not an isolated case, but only that probably this has been more felt because people had enjoyed some stable pricing for almost 7 months without any adjustments, when all the market forces around us were speaking to the fact that fuel prices needed to have been adjusted.
All factors considered, should we anticipate another adjustment going forward?
Unlikely, not in the immediate, because what we've done is we have actually looked at the fundamentals. We've studied and analyzed how the kwacha has been moving, and so it's fairly getting to a level where, yes, I know this is still remains our lean period in terms of our forex earnings, but our anticipation is that we might not have movements that are beyond the acceptable levels in the exchange rate. Looking at the oil prices, yes, there are fears on the international market that as the Western countries are getting into winter, demand for petroleum products increases. And many economies that were also shut down due to COVID in the Western world are opening up. So obviously that is going to add pressure to the demand for petroleum products. But we remain hopeful that probably we've gone quite high enough that even the oil producers are going to be conservative in terms of how they do the adjustments. So all things constant, if the crude oil prices on the international market don't move significantly beyond what they have already moved now, we should now expect that there's going to be more stability in terms of our pricing for petroleum products.
Now, consumer rights activists feel this would pile pressure on the buying power. Consumer rights activist and Chief Executive Officer John Capito says there is need for the country to find a lasting remedy to the ever skyrocketing fuel prices, as Malawi has been a victim of global trends. We caught up with Capito in this interview.
We can't just say because we are importing fuel and there is nothing that we can do. We know also one huge component that we have in the price mechanism is transportation. How we transport that commodity from wherever it comes from. We cannot do anything from where it comes up to maybe to our ports around us. Like for example, Beira and Dar es Salaam. But the moment it reaches Dar es Salaam and Beira, that's where it becomes even more expensive. Because we are bringing in our fuel using road transportation. which is extremely expensive. My argument, I have always requested government through the same MERA committee and the Ministry of Energy, what is stopping Malawi to have a pipeline? We are a landlocked country, and we would want to rely on it, road infrastructure, bringing in things by trucks into the country. It has made our goods to be more expensive. And when that is extended to petrol and diesel, it makes our life a bit more difficult. Why can't we have a pipeline? The pipeline we are talking about, it has already been, feasibility studies were already done. We identified Nakala as a corridor. Nakala corridor. You know how much this country had talked about Nakala corridor. From Kamuzu time until today, nothing has happened on that port. The infrastructure is bad at that port. And all you need is to put a pipeline from Nakala to Liwonde. Then if you need road transportation, it will be from Liwonde to the filling stations. That will be much cheaper. I have argued, and I am telling you, from 1995, this has been my argument. Because I was sitting on PCC, Petroleum Pricing Committee, control. There was the Petroleum Pricing, Commission in the country. I was sitting there, and my argument is, why can't we have a pipeline? The challenge that we have in Malawi, most of the transport system is controlled by politicians.
Now, the United Nations Commission for Africa, UNECA, has urged Malawi to create an enabling environment such that local industry should be competitive at the regional level and make the most of the African Continental Free Trade Area. This was said at the opening of a 3-day workshop on finding ways to industrialize the economies within the region. Eunice Kamwendo is director.
I think that Malawi is already on track. I had the opportunity we had as a team had the opportunity to meet the Minister of Finance, for example, the Minister of Trade, and they're already looking at areas on how they can support. So again, if you look within the Malawi Vision 2063, I think that it is very intently on ensuring that there is commodity-based industrialization, which speaks to the agricultural value chains that we're talking about. But I know for a fact a lot of the initiatives that they're undertaking, whether within the Ministry of Finance, and I'm here maybe referring to the National Economic Empowerment Fund, I think, or Entrepreneurship Fund, I forget, NEEF. I think they're already driving towards that, but I think it's important to work in concert with each other, the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that whatever they're supporting in terms of entrepreneurship development responds to agricultural value chain development, because that's what ultimately will enable Malawi to trade on a bigger scale within itself, but also with the neighboring countries in that sense. For the UN Economic Commission for Africa, we have 3 particular ways on how we support member states. One is, of course, to generate knowledge around particular issues, and in this case, you've touched on access to finance. So we might not necessarily give the financing that is needed, but we are able to leverage on our big platform to provide policy options that countries can take forward. And I'll come back to that point a little later. So that's one big part. The second, of course, is to convene. And part of the convening is, when we have meetings with different stakeholders, including what you mentioned in terms of the private sector. And then the other is to provide the capacity building. So you will see that part of what I have already outlined fits into those 3 big pieces. But going back to financing, which I think is very, very important for most of the member states. And I may not speak fully on Malawi yet because, of course, although we are very engaged, heavily engaged, ours is more sub-regional. We've recently, just to give an example, have supported Eswatini develop its financing model for micro, small and medium enterprises as well. And that was in the recognition that a lot of the MSMEs are informal and maybe not have the access to financing, and yet this is where we see a lot of value in improving employment and so on. But that financing model, so although we might not have the financing for it, we are able to connect with other players within whether it's within the UN, that have financing that can actually support. But because of the studies that we take, it enables the other players to come in and see where they can fill the gap. In Malawi, specifically going back to that, and maybe we'll hear that a lot more when we have the UNDP resident representative, they have a big financing project. I think this is the Malawi Innovation Challenge account. I think knowing where we're coming from, the gaps that we've uncovered in the study, then they're able to plug in with the actual financing for a lot of the MSMEs.
Remember, this is Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. We'll be right back.
Zinenenje msomnalimo muno eya ndimadza kulya tuzina ndi zina amwali mande mwachopata sugar apo tikona nkaka umatu masambati ndi mulibe uno alamwa kuti samwatiyo masamba ndakalaso ti ngati amwali komanso to ino mubasket yonse yangodzadza ndi made in Malawi yokayoka tamakani moyo otsogola pogula zinthu zakunja maganizo amene uri ndobwezera chitukuko cha dziko lino mbuyo kugula zinthu zopangidwa kwathu konkuno kumathandiza kukweza ntchito za makampani a dziko muno zomwenso zimapereka mwayi wa ntchito kwa anthu ambiri ogwira ntchito akachuluka dziko lathu limatolera misonkho yochuluka chumanso chimakwera mukagula katundu wakunja mumangolemeretsa mayiko akunjawo ife sitipindula kanthu kani tikuzani ipo ndendamvetsatu ndandikire pompa nene ndikagule zinthu zathu za chimalawi sindichedwa ndikire tigule zathu tilikule dziko lathu ndidikire sindichedwa
dziko lathu bai Malawi tikonde kunyadira za chimalawi tikamagula za kunja.
Welcome back. This is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. Moving on with the program. For quite some time, there's been an imbalance between supply and demand for forex in the country. Mainly, this is because Malawi has been unable to produce enough forex despite an insatiable appetite for imported goods. This has powered pressure on the local currency, the kwacha, which for the past months has been losing value against major trading currencies on the foreign exchange market. Our Yamikan Kajaji has been following the trend and now reports.
The continued depreciation of the kwacha could have negative impacts on the economy, especially in the business sector. Reunion Insurance Chief Executive Officer Dorothy Chapeyama says depreciation of the kwacha ultimately affects business performance in the country.
Obviously, that will affect many businesses. We interact with the outside world. Most of the goods that we have in Malawi are imported. So because of that, devaluation of the kwacha will obviously affect many businesses because the cost of operations will go. The things that we import will be more expensive than they were before. So we are affected in so many things, including the devaluation of the kwacha. I think life cannot stop. Life cannot stop. What we have, we can make use of every little resource that we have. All the available resources that we have, let's make full use of them. So we can make use of the little resources by making sure that we are utilizing them to the fullest. One area is to change maybe the strategies or to improve the quality of that product, or to even look at the market demands to see how we can change the usual products to make sure that we supply what the market is demanding.
Economist Betchan Sherin weighs in his views.
If you go to the wholesale and retail sector, for example, you notice that prices of quite a number of commodities, especially the imported ones, have gone up. And that is actually a direct effect of the devaluation or the devalued kwacha. And also you have noticed just recently the price of fuel going up as well. You would have also noticed that, for example, if you want to fly, flights have gone up in terms of prices. This is because the kwacha has been devalued. And therefore, many businesses are having to recalculate, especially at the beginning of the financial year when they were budgeting for moving forward. They are having to do some recalculations. This, of course, we know that devaluating by about 5% may not be as significant, but that means quite a lot to the life of a Malawian somewhere as nice. But if you're going to control these things quite properly, we might actually not have to be worried as much.
In an earlier interview, Economics Association of Malawi, ECAMA, Executive Director Frank Chikuta attributed the trend to forces of demand and supply.
The depreciation of a currency is determined by issues of demand and supply. So if demand outweighs supply, you would expect the price of the currency to depreciate. This means that our import requirement is higher than the pace at which we are able to generate foreign exchange. So given that, you find that it's the price, if the exchange rate is not fixed, it's the price which gives in to maintain the balance between demand and supply.
According to the Reserve Bank of Malawi, official foreign reserves declined to $471.1 million, translating to 1.88 months of imports from $537.7 million, which is about 2.15 months of imports recorded on September 24, 2021.
Now, for quite some time, local SMEs have been lamenting low access to finance. Mostly, they say banks seem to be prohibitive in as far as conditions are concerned. Now, National Bank of Malawi is one of the country's commercial banks which has introduced a new facility which attracts SMEs in as far as productivity is concerned. Ian Kuntaja is SME account relationship manager for the bank and shares the rationale behind introduction of the new facility.
This is a product that has been recently launched by the bank. This product, we are targeting the youth in business who are in the age group between 21 to 35 years. We saw that there was a need for the bank to have a product that would resonate well with most youth in Malawi who are doing businesses. So we had some consultations, or I would say some interaction with the youth. We did this in the central, north, and the central region, where we invited the youth so that they can tell us what the problems they're facing as far as learning businesses is concerned. So through that discussion, we got some insight, and we developed a product that would tackle those issues. The most common problem that the youth are facing in business in Malawi is lack to access to finance.
Yes.
So we thought it was, why can't we have a product that would target the youth so that they can have easy access and even affordable access to finance. Mm-hmm. So this product is tackling that problem that most youth are facing in Malawi.
The most problem that the youth face, as you said, is the access to finance. And this access to finance does not only come on its own, the problem does not come on its own. Mostly it's also to do with collateral, because most businesses, some youths do not have the collateral, or some even when they start the business, it's like they don't have the collateral that the banks would need. What is the initiative that has taken place in that regard?
I think through those discussions, that was the most common thing. I think that was raised by most of the youth, that we normally go to the banks.
Yes.
We need this access to finance, but the EU banks will normally tell us that you need collateral. So this is the thing that we took on board, and we decided that this product, we're going to give it on collateral free, meaning that any youth that is coming to access a loan through the bank won't necessarily need to have a security to present to the bank.
Now, in other business news, a local ICT firm, Starter Technologies, has unveiled a sales system called the Shopkeeper. It is going to be used by several outlets, including retail traders, as well as other businesses in the hospitality sector. Proprietor for the firm is Tiamike Paseli. He shares the experience behind the building of the system and how it is going to be working.
This is what we have brought for them to the market. Is solutions to businesses that are struggling in terms of digital. We all know that we're in the digital age where almost everything happening at the tip of our fingers. We talk about business transactions, meetings, almost everything. Even education itself, we're going through this digital process. So what we have brought in, or rather our research showed that while we're in the digital age, but you see that most small medium enterprises, of course also other big enterprises, they are struggling to keep up with the digital age that we are in. Why are they failing to keep up is that the solutions they can afford, they're not there. When I say affording, I mean the price attached to the solutions as well as the user friendliness of the softwares that are there. So we have developed a software in consideration, in mind, keeping in mind of that. Say no, we need to bring something that we can afford. Okay, something that is right close to us in terms of support whatsoever. So we have brought in a software, and we are calling it the Shopkeeper. This software has got 3 products in it. We've got the point of sale, and then stock and inventory management. What it will do is, for a small shop, let's assume, or let's have a picture of a small shop. They're selling different products. This software will manage everything for that particular person. Things like what they are selling, okay, and then also it will manage. It will manage the stock for them, and then also record part of it, of course, and the expense part of it, and then on top of that, it will do the analysis. It will analyze for them. It will say, no, your shop, this is what you are selling.
Well, that interview also brings us to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Stay safe and bye for now.